So welcome to everyone that's joining us for this career and industry insights session. I'm going to introduce everybody in a moment and then we'll move into the session proper. So this session is part of a series that we're putting together to give students insights into particular careers, particular industries. But the aim is to not just give you some insights and information, but also to give you some practical tips and ideas and steps that you can take to maximize your chances of either accessing a particular career or a particular organization, and how you can make yourself stand out as a candidate when you get to that stage. So joining me today is Janice Steele from Quantum Solutions and Alex Young from Scottish Water. I'll get you guys to introduce yourselves in a moment. I'll kick off the introductions. So my name's Dave Jarrold. I am the Skills Development Consultant here at Edinburgh Napier. I am spread across the whole of the university. I work with all schools, and my remit is to support students to develop core skills, soft skills, human skills, call them what you will, but it's that skill set that sits behind or beside your academic and your professional skills and supports you both in your time at university, but also then in your career beyond. So that's my remit. That's the work that I do. I'll pass you over to my colleague, Kelly.
Yeah, so my name is Kelly Dawson. I work as a career development consultant alongside Dave, so we are in the same team here at Edinburgh Napier. I work with the School of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment in particular, and I work with their students and graduates, helping them to find work, helping them with their applications, preparing for interviews, preparing for assessment centres, all parts of the recruitment process really, in careers appointments, but also in group workshops as well.
That's great. Thanks, Kelly. Alex, could I come to you next? Ask you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi all. So my name's Alex Young. I'm an Alliance Manager at Scottish Water. And if you think of Scottish Water as being responsible for all the water and wastewater services across Scotland, that requires a lot of construction and a lot of engineering work. So we work very closely with our supply chain to keep up with that demand. And my job specifically is working with one of the key partners in that supply chain, looking across that delivery landscape and trying to remove blockers and make sure it's as efficient as it possibly can be. So those blockers, sometimes they're technical or they're process or systems orientated, but a lot of the time they're actually relating to human factors. So a big part of my role is making sure that we have a collaborative relationship and we're pulling together in the same direction rather than working against each other.
Excellent. Thanks, Alice. And Janice, ask you to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Janice Steele. I'm a managing quantity surveyor here at Quantum Solutions. There is a team of 7 of us in total, and predominantly the areas that we're working in is residential, distillery work, and commercial, and we do some private work as well for private clients, so big house builds. So pretty much across the sector, and that's me.
Excellent. Thanks. I feel like a game show host at that point. It's like, tell me who you are and what you do. So, as I say, a fairly relaxed session today, but there are certain areas that we want to cover as we go through the discussion. So I'm going to kick it off with the first question, and it's really around sort of big picture stuff. So we're interested in what the big issues are, the kind of hot button topics, either sort of pressures or opportunities or challenges that you're facing at the moment, either in the industry or in your specific organization. And I'll come to you again first, Alex, if I can, and ask you to pick that one up.
Yeah, of course, Dave. So I think there's three key issues for me. The first one is about resources. So we've got that awkward combination of the industry being in growth and there being more demand than ever for skills, which is absolutely a good thing. But when you couple that with Brexit, for example, and less access to the resources and the skills that we need, that certainly makes life a challenge at the moment. The next one, and I feel slightly guilty about putting this as number 2 and not number 1, is climate change. So clearly an existential threat to humanity. I think, our sector has certainly, contributed to the problem and continues to contribute to the problem, but we have a huge opportunity to lead, I think, in terms of identifying and delivering, solutions to that problem. And then the last one for me, I would say, is inflation. So just yesterday we had the chair of HS2 talking about inflation at 27% over the last 3 years for construction. That puts a lot of affordability challenges on all projects, but particularly those that are delivered over a number of years. So yeah, I think those are probably the top three from my perspective anyway.
No, that's really interesting. I don't think you should apologise for putting climate second, because one of the things we talk about with students when we look at some of these skills sessions is about what's the thing that you can control and focusing on what we can control. And obviously, you can't control inflation, you can't control the climate, but what we can control is the skills that we identify and bring in to then have an influence. And so, yeah, as you said, what you can control is the skill sets that you look for and attract into the business so that you can then start to have that impact.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's an exciting time to be a student because you should be graduating into a market with that's hungry for your expertise. Essentially, it's a good time in my opinion.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks a lot, Alex. That gives us a great start. Janice, can I come round to you? So the hot topics or the big issues for you, I'll say either for the organisation or within the sector.
The kind of one of the main ones for us is recruitment. Which we're talking to students in whole here. So the world is your oyster. The opportunities are massive out here. But we need you to come with some certain skill sets to get into the market. And this is since COVID, it's been a bit difficult because this working from home doesn't really work for the industry we're in at times. And it's really difficult to train new graduates in that environment. We really need them in the office environment. They feel part of the team. They learn, they pick up from not just quality surveyors, but the project managers, the contract managers, the trades. And that's how you hone your skills as a young person coming into our industry. But it's not just graduates, it's getting skilled staff. We could probably get 2 or 3 graduates, no problem. But we're at a stage where we also need the experienced ones. We've had a lot of people that have left the industry during those downturns and not come back for various other reasons. We're talking not just from a professional side, but from a trade side on getting competitive prices back. Goes back to your cost of projects. I'm coming back as a plumber or an electrician, they're making an absolute fortune, but it's such a skilled area, and if you're any good at it, you're going to be swamped with work, so they can really name the price. Estimators, procurement's taking so much longer because of the time that we're in, between material prices going up, inflation rates, sourcing materials. It's really difficult. And we have also, Alex, seen a trend in the last year of keeping cost control, because basically we're QSs on clients' projects. Keeping that at that budget that we started off with is really, really difficult, especially if it's a long project and they're seeing a cost increase over a year of 25% in some cases, which is not great for both industry, client and everyone. So those 3 are the main key issues of our industry in the built environment.
It's interesting. So I work with a number of other sectors as well, and that whole issue around on-site, off-site, hybrid working, I don't think there's any organisation yet that's actually cracked it. I think we're transitioning, and we're still very much in that transitional phase. But so really interesting starting point there, because I think you both highlighted some really big fundamental sort of seismic challenges for the industry and for the sector. But what I'm also getting, exactly as you said there, Alex, was opportunity and the scale of opportunity that's there for the right candidates and the right students, and it's a growing area. But as you say, Janice, it's about having the right skills, which is my neat segue into the next bit, which is to ask you about the skills that are most in demand. And for that, I'll pass over to you, Kelly.
Thanks, Dave. So yeah, the second question, I'll maybe come to you again first, Alex, is thinking about maybe within your organisation or within the sector at large, what would you say are the most in-demand technical skills that you're looking for at the moment?
So, Kelly, I think I think it would actually be easier to list the jobs that we don't see shortages in. It's really that that big an issue at the moment. But certainly, you know, when we go to market, we're looking for project managers. We struggle to see applications as we used to and as we'd like to. Quantity surveyors, estimators, and you know, Janice, I think you noted a number of these sort of professions as well. Designers of all technical disciplines, planners, and probably another big one for us, and this is definitely a growth area, is around instrumentation control and automation. So we in the water industry are on a journey progressively using that more with our asset base as our other sectors, and that's a particular skill set where there's just nothing like the resources that we require. So big opportunities for anyone you know, studying to work in that field.
Yeah, that's really interesting just to hear there the scope of the roles that are needed, but then the skills underlying that as well. No, that's really, really interesting to hear. And for you, Janice, for your organisation or the sector, most in-demand technical skills or similar to what Alex is saying, you know, certain roles that you're really needing?
Well, for us, it's we are actively trying to recruit, and it's really difficult. And we've had not a great deal of interest, and the ones we have are just not even meeting the mark. The applications we're getting in, our CVs are very poor, and it's that first impression. So it's maybe a soft skill, not so much a technical, but they need to tell us as much about themselves. I'm looking for a bit of personality in that, in their submission. I want to know what projects I've worked on, if any of that have assisted. Technical skills, for us as QSs who do project management, it's really good basic good Excel if they can, but it's something that can be learned, because usually we've got our own templates, but they just need to have an awareness of Microsoft. But to be perfectly honest, the kids that are coming through, or the graduates that are coming through, have those basic skills, and we can hone in on them. Communication skill is probably the biggest one for me, and it's not so much technical, but we've got a lot of people that would happily communicate with email all day. And in our industry, sometimes it's easier to sort things out over the phone. Pick up the phone. I've got a couple of graduates at the moment that are, I've emailed them twice. I said, we're dealing with people that are on site and are nowhere near a computer, although they do have a mobile, but mobiles are not accessible. If we're typing, try and call them and leave a message, because they'll come back to you. I've also noticed with trades, and it's probably us as the older generation, I hate to tell myself that, but that's where I'm at. There's a lot of young trades or young people who need to speak to on site. They want to do WhatsApp. So if that's a communication skill that they're going with, go with it. But like Alex, we are struggling for QSs, estimators. If anybody's getting inclined to being an estimator, that there is, I know, loads of different firms, whether it's civil, on the rails, construction, are looking for estimators. That is such a shortage area. Quad surveyors, project managers, it's pretty much the same. As an industry as a whole, we are struggling resource-wise if there's key skills. But for me, the technical is, anybody coming into this industry, if they stick in with a construction technology and whatever, or other civils, or the main basics of how things go together, because you will go far in our industry. You just need that basic knowledge, and everything else you pick up with around the team.
That's really, really useful. Thanks, Janice. Like, good to hear that, you know, things like, you know, maybe for myself as well, when working with students, encouraging them to upskill, keeping up to date with technologies, maybe even trying to complete certifications while they're still at university, trying to kind of build that while they're still here to go into industry might be a help. And I guess the communication side of it as well. I've spoken to quite a lot of industry professionals and heard similar things, you know, trying to build sometimes student confidence with just lifting the phone instead of emails, especially in certain industries. So yeah, that was really interesting to hear.
But that is the way that the kids, the younger generation, communicate. I've got 3 kids, and they all text each other around the house. So it's so it's just getting back to have a conversation. So I've made the point that it's a silly thing, but I sit down with my graduates once a week for 30 minutes, and it's not all about mentoring, it's just having a chat. So it's that art of communication, because we solve a lot of problems and mitigate arguments on site or stressful situations by having a chat and a coffee.
Yeah, definitely. Dave, I think we've kind of moved slightly into your softer skills with our conversation there, but we'll kind of just move on to your next question. We can maybe incorporate some of that because it's all really good stuff.
Absolutely. No, that's really interesting. We're going to circle back. You mentioned about applications there, Janice, so we'll circle back to that. But yeah, I'll pick up that thread around skills and the communicate. It's really interesting because there is that danger that, this is how you need to do it. And we do sound like that older generation, but it's a bit like the hybrid working. The shift to doing everything remote isn't the answer, and actually there's somewhere in the middle, and the the kind of the live interaction and way of working, having people on site or in an office is really valuable. In the same way that there are apps and new tools that are absolutely making our communications more effective and more efficient, and kind of greasing the wheels of the ways that we work. But there's still almost that traditional way of getting together and how you problem solve, how you deal with conflict and challenges and these kind of things. So if I can pick up that thread, Janice, and perhaps keep going with yourself around, you mentioned communication, but are there other what are the other key soft skills, core skills that you see, either you see a lack in, or that you see have been particularly valuable to support young graduates and new graduates coming through?
We spoke about the communication. That's a big area for me. Also, it's knowing how to write an email in a professional form. We can all write emails to each other, but it's the formal introduction, like hi, whoever the name is, not straight into the email. But that's something that they can learn quickly. We've got plenty of templates and stuff, but it does, and we don't let our young graduates send an email out without us just proofreading it. But it comes down to loads of people within the office environment playing a mentoring role. There's not one person training. There should be the full team training, and I've tried to emphasise that in here. It's not a graduate that I'm constantly speaking to. This is a graduate to help everyone. And what I've learned from the various people I've worked with since an apprentice, I've picked things off everyone, whether I like them or not. You pick up these skills for the people you work with and the projects you work on. So that is a key for picking up how, when they copy you into an email, and make sure everyone's included, and if they're helping you possibly one day a week, that they're included in that email chain. It keeps them involved. But for soft skills, just a bit of enthusiasm, a bit of delighted to be at work. I know we've got days with no delighted for me, I've got to say. But being part of the team, communication, chat, we've actually got, I know this sounds really kind of fancy, but we've got a pool table in our office, which is great because I can have informal meetings with some of the team over a game of pool, and I actually get more out of the younger ones through that than sitting having a coffee. Whereas the older, the other surveyors, I can easily have a coffee and we can talk through work. So those are the kind of key areas for me.
That's really interesting. I really like that idea of doing something and having the conversation alongside something that you're doing. Yeah, excellent.
Yes, try and make them part of the team. See if
Yeah.
they're part of feel part of the, we used to create an education community of practice, part of your environment. They'll love the experience and they'll fit in. And given the varied work, not the same thing all the time. But there needs to come an expectation for the soft skills that they're not going to come in and run a job immediately. Some of them are extremely ambitious and we need to kind of hold them back a bit. And there's other ones that are terrified. So it's a balance of but you also know that in the education side, the ones that are full of woe and ready to go, and then there's other ones that wouldn't speak the entire 3 years. It's getting a fine balance, you know.
Yeah, because everyone needs a different kind of support in order to get them to progress, and progression is different for everyone. So yeah, Alex, so in terms of those soft skills, what's your experience and your take on it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really liked hearing some of that, particularly around resilience. Talking about mood. I think there's people who have a sort of growth mindset and who can look at challenges and failures as an opportunity to learn and to improve. I think that's a really important skill, and it is a skill that is something that can be learnt. Even if we have an inherent bias, one way or the other, we can work and change those things and approach our work differently. I think it's been touched on, but networking is a really important thing. So, my background is electrical, for example, but I'm very aware of the limitations of my own experience within that, particular area. Things have become so technical and so specialized. It's really important to be able to build networks so that you can reach out to others and say, can you help me with this? Do you have a better understanding of this particular subject than I do? I just couldn't imagine the project managers in the world that I work in being able to do their job at all if they weren't able to network in that way and to build off each other's strengths. So that's very important. And the final thing I would say, comes down to sort of time management and organizational skills. So in my experience, some of the best project managers that I've met, can often be probably the least experienced from a technical perspective, but what they're very good at is that sort of time management and organizational organization side of things. So that's a real skill in itself, and again is something that can be practiced and developed. It's not just it's something that's inherent in some people and not in others that can be changed.
Yeah, you're right, Alex. It's just basically there's no silly questions when you're learning, and the need to everyone needs to understand that we all started somewhere, and there's loads of things that we don't know, and even I'm still learning. With over 30 years experience, there's things that I don't know. As we say in the RICS, the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, when we went to sit with a chartership, they're looking for a safe pair of hands. They're not expecting everyone to be an expert in every area. And if you don't know, you go to someone that would know, and you ask advice from 2 or 3 people. We're doing cost plans all the time, and forever shout around the office, I'm looking for a rate for removing an asbestos roof. Any day, I was thinking maybe £150 a square metre or something. They go, well, you need to add the extras to the prelims. So there's things like that, but it's communication skills and working as a team and picking up these things. But they should not be terrified of asking for help and know the limitations of the something they don't know. I would rather they did that than send out something and then they were in a darker place. So there's no silly questions when you're learning.
It's great to get that feedback from you guys, because obviously we build that in. We build in team working as part of their academic experience, and certainly the training that we do. Mindset's a big thing. You know, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we react and how we take steps forward, all the time management stuff. But it's one thing coming from us, but it's a whole other thing when it comes from employees directly, and it really kind of underscores what we're trying to equip students with, so that they're ready for the next steps. So speaking of which, taking those next steps is about how students are able to shine when they go through the application process. So Kelly, I'll pass back to you for this one.
Yeah, I really like this question, because it is what I would say it's my top most asked question by students when they come to me in careers appointments. They always, they sit down and, we look at their CV, do things like that, and then they'll ask, how can I stand out to employers? What can I do to make myself stand out more? Doing little extra courses, part-time jobs, industry experience, anything like that. So my first question, as part of that, Alex, I'll come to you first. What actions would you say that candidates, students take before they apply to you that can help them stand out? What kind of things do you like to see on their CV or them talking about an interview that they've done?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So I appreciate the difficulty. Sometimes it can feel like the bar is set very high for demonstrating experience and it's a bit of a chicken and eggs scenario to get that experience in the first case. But I think really what we're looking for as an employer is just evidence of using initiative. So there are so many ways to do that, and you started to list some of those, Kelly. So some form of employment doesn't have to be in the same industry, but any form of employment. Involvement with professional institutions, perhaps the Institute of Building or the Institute of, Chartered Surveyors. There's lots of professional bodies that you can join as a student, and develop skills and experience with. There's non-profit opportunities, Duke of Edinburgh. There's lots of ways that people can sort of demonstrate using initiative for growth and for self-development that really stand out on a resume. So I would certainly recommend any or all of that to any current students. The other thing, and we've touched on this, Janice and I both, throughout some of the questions, is about confident communication, and I say that as someone who's not naturally a confident communicator myself. So my the point I want to stress is that is something that can be practiced and can be developed and improved. And there's opportunities out there. So obviously through the university, but also there are groups like Toastmasters, for example, or there's all manner of ways that people can practice that as a skill, and that can come across really, really well. Of course, it's important not to be too confident, and there needs to be an honesty about one's strengths, but also one's weaknesses. But I think communication is an art, and it's a skill that can and should be practiced.
That's really good. Thanks, Alex. I think that would be really useful for the students to hear. Janice, what do you think? Do you think in terms of similar things to Alex, things that students can be doing to help themselves stand out in the process and write a strong application?
Yeah, presentation is probably up there first and foremost. It's the first thing you see. Is it formatted? Is it spell checked? I mean, it's silly basic things, but spell check doesn't pick up everything. Actually read it or get someone else to read it. Do they understand it? And somebody that doesn't know you, do they understand it? So that always is the first impression. But as Alex says, look, I'm looking for some personality. I'm not looking for the joker in the office, but I'm looking for somebody with a that's going to fit into our office environment. They've done a bit of, whether it's through sport, Girl Guides, Brownies, volunteering, Duke of Edinburgh. They've done something for charity with their mother, their father, their sisters, their 60-mile cycle, something, giving it to a certain charity. We've definitely been working of some form. We've all started in a part-time week in a cafe or a shop or something else. And anything that they think that the schools are actually, and universities are actually very good at honing their soft skills these days and get them to volunteer and go into other things. But if they're taking part in any competitions, I know the universities do a lot of competitions, student challenges, etc. It doesn't matter if they've won it, they took part. It's part of working as a team. And it's these things that we're looking for. Also, probably what's key and this is we need somebody that can drive. We're in an industry where we're not site-based or office-based all the time. We need to travel to site. And in the jobs I'm working on, I got a job in Arran. We've got a couple of distilleries that are way up north, and so we're all over, and you need to be able to get there. Then you can't always get public transport. So that's probably key for us on, or it's a benefit to any employment within our industry to have your driver's license. But that's basically it. Is these presentation. What have you been involved in? Is it meaningful? And have you got a bit of work ethic?
That's great. Thanks very much. It's really useful. It is really useful to hear. It's something students worry about when they come to me really and they say, you know, I haven't been able to get that industry experience. I've got a part-time job, but does that even matter? You know, and it's trying to say to them, it does matter. It's really good that you've managed to get that experience, and they write off some things that they've done in the past and, you know, like it is important and they have gained things from that. So it's really good to hear you saying that so that they can hear that, and, you know, things like volunteering, things like clubs and societies, that they can see that that all has, you know, really good value into getting involved, and not to, you know, obviously industry experience is really, really good to have, but not to panic if they haven't been able to get an internship or something, because there is a tendency to panic from what I've seen with some students. So that was really good to hear.
You also need to explain to explain to the students that the problem that they possibly haven't had industry experience is the fact that we're so busy and short-staffed that we don't have the time to take someone on for even a week at times, and which is a fault from our industry as a whole in training for the new generation. And we need to make the time to have meaningful industrial experience, because we want people to come into our industry and stay. And unfortunately, it's been really difficult to get that those placements organised. But for me, like Alex said, it doesn't need to be industrial, as long as they've shown commitment to a workplace anywhere. That's probably just as good.
Yeah, well, that's really good to hear. Thank you both. Dave, anything you want to add to that discussion? Because that was quite interesting.
No, nothing from my side, but you know, just really again underscores the value of the kind of training and preparation work. So no, brilliant. Thanks, Kelly. So my final question is a bit more of a personal one. So we've all got a few miles behind us in terms of our career, some of us more than others. So I'm going to ask you to sort of cast back to thinking about your 20-year-old self. Think about a lot of our graduates coming out around about that kind of age group. So if you were to give a key piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be? And it might be professionally related, life related, whatever you would say to yourself. And Alex, I'm going to pick on you first.
Yeah, sure, Dave. And look, actually, it was interesting because Janice has already sort of covered the advice I would give myself, and that is not to think that some of the older people in the room know quite as much as I think they do. So you know, what I've learned over the course of my career is that every day is a school day. You know, and I've sit here today recognizing that that's going to be the case for the rest of my career. So, you know, my advice to my younger self would be: don't be so worried, and be a little bit more confident in asking questions.
Excellent. Yeah, fantastic advice. And Janice.
thinking back to my 20s, hard enough. But for me, it's don't panic. It'll all work out. I'm a great believer if you've got a good work ethic and you stick in, you might not get it the first time and you will learn from your mistakes. It's not a disaster. Everything can be resolved. And you learn from those mistakes just as much in you learn from a particularly difficult job more than you do from a straightforward job, because the amount of things that you need to ask advice for. So don't panic, you're not the only one. It'll work its way out.
I think that's great advice. I think especially for the cohort of students who are coming through what we've been through over the past few years, and it's, as we all know, been a particularly pressured time. And I think it's been a difficult finish for a lot of students. And I think it's not always like this. Don't worry, things will work themselves out, and just stick in and give it a go. And like you say, every day is a school day. There's no such thing as failure. It's all just feedback. We learn and we move on. That's fantastic. I just want to say a huge thank you to Janice and to Alex for joining us today, and for your thoughts and for your feedback and for the advice and tips that you've shared with our students. I'm sure it will be very much appreciated. So thanks for watching, and thanks very much for your time, guys.